You remember those last few segments or videos that I did throughout the week? And, we had talked about not just this subject matter that we're discussing, like individually, or there's like this person, but we talked about why companies do this or have this approach. I know people are of the opinion that, okay, they try to do this calculation thing as a 5D chess. They talk ESG and all this stuff. And I think in some cases, you guys give these guys too much credit, and it's not even that difficult to understand. It's just big corporate entity wants to try to make a little money. They are completely disconnected from the people that are on the ground that actually are the ones running the operation, if you will. And the people that are running the operation are completely insane. Often diversity hires, but completely insane, driven by their social views. And because it's not like it's something that's a creator-owned thing, the bottom line of the company is not dependent on how they act. And there are probably blue-haired gender studies people that are in marketing positions that are telling maybe the higher-ups that, hey, this is the direction. Because think about it. I know we have rational people, and I think that's the mistake that often happens, right? Is that people look at it through their own lens, and they're like, okay, you're rational, you're reasonable. And you always look at, okay, there has to be a logical reason as to why they would do something this bonehead. So what that does is it causes you to put your own individual like rational approach onto the other folks that are just plain out crazy. And some things you can't do that. So people are just crazy as hell, and that's what they're driven by. And I do think it's as simple as that again, working in a form like $1 billion corporate entity, I often have seen this so often, how these higher ups, VPs, all of that, who have a little more stake in it, are completely disconnected from the people at the bottom. And I think you guys underestimate the power of things like social media and how these blue-haired, like diversity hires that have gender studies degrees that are telling the higher ups that, hey, this is the direction that the country is going. If you look at something like Twitter, you'd be confused and you think that, right? Because Twitter, for example, has a bunch of deranged weirdos. And if you are basing your market on that, you can be utterly confused. This is an example of kind of that level of lack of understanding for the people because their bottom line isn't impacted. We're going to bring up the G4 thing again. So G4 TV, quick crash course on this. Old school stuff gets revitalized, gets revived, brings some of even the old people that were part of the project, and it's supposed to be kind of, hey, look at us, we're back. And they're trying to modernize it, and it's not like just like a cable TV thing. It's like they're doing YouTube and all of that. And they came back, and yeah, they brought some people that was to be expected after all, because these are generally the people that are going to get these gigs. Deranged leftists that are hyper emphasizing their whatever politics, social views, whatever gender, all that other nonsense nobody cares about. Here's an example of this, where the Frost chick who went on that tirade about sexism in games or whatever, this was her response a few days ago from the day I recorded this. And it just really paints the picture. Some guy gets talking about, hey, you said this or you said that, looking at likes and dislikes as metrics, which you have some people that have done that have looked at this and said, man, G4 is getting ratioed to shit. And this is what the chick that went on that tirade that got everybody talking said. She said, if it makes him feel better, I gained 8,000 follows since that speech and got a lot of money on content payouts. So I didn't lose any money over this apparent this day. Again, so the bottom line and even the future and that trajectory does not impact her because she's basically a commissioned employee at best. And she doesn't have that connection, man. And this is why, again, I think you guys give these guys too much credit and think these people are way too smart. if your bottom line, and those of you that own businesses, you understand that when you got like true stake in the game, okay, and something is done that maybe impacts that bottom line, and then you often make an adjustment because that's your money that you playing with. These guys with G4 was revised by like Comcast, right? Yeah, and this obviously got ratioed or whatever, but this got revised by Comcast, so it's their money. This ain't her money. Like this is not like her. So her follower count went up, so it's okay. But it's not helping G4. We've looked at the numbers, and you've seen other YouTubers do that, where they have and you're looking at the Social Blade, where you see G4 has been bleeding subscribers. G4 doesn't get any more live viewers, streamers, or people watching the stream than I do. They're not doing very well. It's just really well packaged, well produced things that people aren't really into right now, and that obviously didn't help. And the reason why people aren't into it is because they're doing something that there's a big market for it. There's a bunch of people that are already in here doing it, and because they're trying to go from the cable TV to kind of doing the YouTube thing and that sort of approach. There's so many people that already do that. A lot of folks that have less resources that are making better content than what it is that they can ever produce. This is just basically IGN to, and how they did the same thing, where they repackaged it to kind of do it for, which was, do it for YouTube and all that. But Frost's bottom line, she's telling you, like, I'm not impacted by this, so who cares? And remember, I told y'all goofy when y'all think, oh, well, this is what G4 wanted. They got more press. They got more views. No, they didn't. Again, they've been bleeding views. What are y'all talking about? They've been bleeding subscribers and bleeding views. I've told y'all, this whole all publicity is good publicity is just a nonsensical term that you should never say that, because that's simply false. There's certain, depending on where you're at, there's certain publicity that can absolutely ruin your model and ruin your bottom line. And that's what we saw with this. But because this is not creator owned, she has no stake in this. She's going to get her money regardless. And she sees the individual follows and she thinks that's like the cool thing about all of this. Why would she change? And this is what y'all need to understand when y'all hire these like weirdos, man, that are obsessed with that. This is what you get. You're putting a person in a position that probably shouldn't be there, and they don't care about whether or not you make money or whether or not you do well or you're seen in the good eyes of the viewers that are your customers really effectively. No, they don't care. They don't care. Now, I don't know what Comcast is going to do out of all this, and it'll be interesting to keep up with, but they don't care. Not Comcast. I'm saying the people that are on the ground that usually produce the content. It's one thing for the people that are like at the higher ups, but the people that produce the content are usually completely disconnected, and they don't see the consequences of your actions. So again, you got the bad advice. You got the bad advice from some blue-haired weirdo that works for you and said we need to kind of bring these people on because this is where the country's going. But yeah, I don't think that was a good move, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that this has not been economically sound of an investment, I'm willing to bet, yet for them, and I don't think this is sustainable. To be fair, I don't think it's sustainable at all. You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and Odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, ericdjuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.